So politicians can't say they love Dr. King and how he stood for love and unity, but then you deny and refuse to support his agenda. Right, Governor? I mean, since you came, right, Congressman? So let me show you what I mean, Governor. Dr. King would not have been for a wall. And the hurting, how many of y'all are not against a wall? Everybody here that's not against the wall, politicians, everybody, and will tell Donald Trump, you don't need to be building a wall to separate people. We need to be spending money to give people health care. Stand on your feet. Now, anybody that doesn't stand on your feet, you get the seat. Wait a minute. How many folk in here believe, like Dr. King, that everybody ought to have what Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, asked for 100 years ago, and that's health care for every citizen? Everybody believes that. Stand up. Now, if you can't stand up for that, then don't say you love Dr. King. You may be seated. I'm just saying, I'm too old to play now. And preachers, don't just think I'm talking to politicians. Just because you can talk about it from the pulpit, but then I'm going to say it like I feel it. They can find you for your pastor's anniversary, but they can't find you in the street with these students and these other folk fighting for injustice. If you are a preacher of the gospel and you are asking your people to tithe, but you are not fighting for them to have a living wage, you are lying. The folk before you gave too much. The people before you bled too much. And don't let them tell you, you too idealistic, you just young, you don't understand how to compromise. The hell with compromising. Stand for what's right. Modern day racists and must not know who we are. The Tea Party must not know who we are. Donald Trump and his enablers must not know who we are. We are the sons and daughters of Martin. We are the sons and daughters of Rabbi Heschel. We are the sons and daughters of Rosa Parks. We are the sons and daughters of Dorothy Day and Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison. We are the sons and daughters of Abraham and Sarah and Moses and Muhammad and Jesus and Mary. And we were born for right now. Stand! 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 Put some feet on your prayers and stand! Stand! Tell somebody nothing would be more tragic than for us to turn back. Now it's time to do more than just preach. It's time to put some legs and some actions on our preaching. They must not know who we are. We've already made it through 250 years of slavery. We've already made it through 100 years of Jim Crow. We've already made it through the Holocaust. What we face now is just another Pharaoh. But here we are. We were born for such a time as this. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, give me a high five. And then join me in the street. Because it's time. It's time. It's movement time. It's time. Get up. Fight back. And justice will be ours. Somebody like Mike Pence will take a quote from Dr. King, doesn't even know what it means. Y'all saw that? Said one of my favorite quotes is when Dr. King said, make real the promises of democracy, and that's what Mr. Trump is trying to do with his wall. Are you nuts? I I mean, that ain't an anti-Republican thing. That's just foolish. When Dr. King said make real the promise of democracy, he was talking about undoing racism and fighting for labor rights and living wages. Coretta said, look, she said, not giving people a public education is violence. Denying health care is violence. Denying living wages is violence. Denying labor rights is violence. Denying people's culture is violence. And then she said an apathetic attitude that refuses to address the other forms of violence is also violence. We need to stop talking about left versus right and talk about public policy violence versus non-violence. You know, everybody wanted to censure Representative King for what he said. But people do stuff on the floor of Congress every day worse than anything he said. When you refuse to restore the Voting Rights Act, that's racism. When you pass policies like denying health care and resegregating public schools and refusing to assist Native Americans on their reservations and help them protect their water, that's racism. Racism is policy. Racism is not about, Dr. King didn't fight for how we talk. He fought for how we live. He didn't just fight against the language, he fought to change laws. Ask them, just say, are you for restoring the Voting Rights Act and fully opening up voting? Are you for automatic voter registration at 18 since you send people to war at 18? Are you for early voting in every state? Are you for just immigration? Are you for tribal recognition for a First Nation Native American? Are you for ending this crazy mass incarceration, especially now that you got people in jail for the very thing that people in California now sell and make money off of? Come on, talk to me for a minute. Are you for a federal and state living wage? Are you for union rights in your state? Are you for equal pay and equal work? Are you for social safety net programs for the poor? Are you for diversity in education and guaranteeing that every child has access to a high quality, free, diverse public education? Are you for equitable funding for HBCUs? Are you for single-payer health care? Are you for fair and decent housing for all? Are you for repealing the 2017 federal tax law that took $2 trillion from the backs of the poor and working poor and threatens the very health of social programs in this country? Are you for clean and renewable energy? Are you for a ban on fracking and mountaintop removal and coal ash ponds? Are you for a ban on new pipelines and refineries and coal and oil? And are you for bringing clean energy to the fore? Are you for the protection of public land? Are you for ending military aggression and warmongering? Are you for stopping the privatization of the military budget? We now put 53 cents of every discretionary dollar into war, the war economy. The average combat soldier makes less than $30,000 a year, while the average CEO of a defense company makes $19 million a year. Are you for a ban on assault weapons? Ask them the question. Not just do you love Dr. King, because people love dead prophets, but the question is, are you willing to follow Dr. King today? This country cannot continue to survive with 43% of the people living in poverty or low wealth. 43%. When you have 4 million people that get up every morning that they can buy unleaded gas and can't buy unleaded water. That's why I hope the politicians hear this. I'm not fussing at you. I'm saying it's time for us to put down this partisanship and do what's right. Obama wasn't a total solution. Trump isn't a total problem. The problem is that Trump and his enablers have used something that didn't even begin with him. It goes as far back as the day when the Barber class, the wealthy class, would, in particular in the South, would separate blacks and whites along Jim Crow anytime there was the potential for poor blacks and poor whites to come together and build political power. Richard Nixon perfected it and called it the Southern strategy. The design of that strategy was to intentionally divide poor black and poor white people, particularly in the South, in places like Tennessee, who ought to be natural allies. And if they were to come together, black and white and brown, they would form a political power base that could control elections. If you poor and can't pay your light bill, we all black in the dark. And it's been the way of the South, because if you change the South, you change the nation. And every time black and white people have come together in the South, like they did right after slavery for about 10 or 15 years, the South fundamentally changed. And it took the nation forward. When black and white people came together in the civil rights movement, it changed. So Trump is not the problem. It's this strategy that he's taken to the nth degree. It was designed in 1968, and the goal of it was to live for 50 years, and this is the 50th year. Who are the poor? Are they the 26 states that have passed voter suppression laws? Are they the 2 million people in prison, 1.5 million black and brown? Are they the gay, the trans, the bi, the queer, the people that we want to destroy simply because of their sexuality? When the real sex we ought to be talking about is the illicit relationship between the Supreme Court and big business that produces the bastard. That's the real sex. That produces the bastard child of Citizens United. Who are the poor and the broken? The women, the misused, the children, the abused. Who are they? The immigrants from the South who really just want to come home. Can I teach for a minute? We keep saying that they want to come back. They want to come to the United States. Well, Texas was Mexico. New Mexico was Mexico. Texas pulled out of Mexico when Mexico decided it no longer would have slavery. So they ain't crossing the border crossed them. And how in the world is a person who are immigrants themselves then gonna be against immigrants? Governor, what's your last name? No, that's not no Navajo name. That's like Barber. Even though I'm mixed with it, that comes out of England. So how is it that a whole bunch of folk that are nothing but immigrants themselves now want to pass some laws that if those laws were in place in the 1920s, their own great-grandmamas wouldn't have been able to come here? There are 25 of the wealthiest countries in this world, and we're the only one that doesn't offer some form of universal health care. Even with the Affordable Care Act, there are 37 million people without health care. And now you have some people that want to roll it back. They want to take away pre-existing condition covering. I mean, there's something wrong with you. Down in the spirit level. I mean, and especially if you call yourself a Christian. Whenever I go in to debate politicians, and I say, let's talk about health care. And they say, well, you know, I just believe people ought to have access. Well, you can have access to a Rolls Royce and can't buy it. I mean, I'd have access. What that means is they want to allow the insurance company to do what they want to do. And I said, but I always thought of this. I said, I walk in the office, you know, being a bishop, preach. I said, are you a Christian? I said, yes, sir, Bishop, I'm a Christian. I love the Lord. And I said, did you put your hand on the Bible when you got sworn into office? Yes, 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 you have to have the Word of God. I said, do you know what's in it? How can you claim to be a Christian legislator, a Christian governor, or a person who is a Christian who happens to be a governor, or happens to be a legislator, or happens to be a state rep? And if anything, the man you claim you follow gave everybody free health care and never charged them a copay. You'll get that in a minute. Everywhere Jesus went, he gave for free health care and never charged a leper a copay. How you gonna follow him? See, I want Republicans and Democrats to say, we don't want Obamacare. You're right, because first of all, the name of it isn't Obamacare, it's the Affordable Care Act. The reason you call it Obamacare was to racialize it. I want Republicans and Democrats to say, no, we don't want Obamacare, that's not enough. We want universal health care for everybody in the United States. 66 million white people are poor in America. 62 million Americans work every day and make less than a living wage. And 250,000 people die every year from poverty. What Dr. King wanted was us to get away from left versus right and conservative versus liberal and to find the moral center and to work to change policy and stop blaming the poor for their poverty and recognize that poverty is a man-made creation. It is not a God-ordained situation. You love Dr. King? Since 2001, the Tennessee state government has passed multiple voter ID requirements and instituted a proof of citizenship database under the lie of voter fraud. What you should be passing in Tennessee is early voting and same-day registration and more access to the ballot. The courts have said voter ID is a form of systemic and surgical racism. Nobody talked about voter fraud until black people and brown people started voting in mass. In this state, there are 740,000 people uninsured. It's a shame and a disgrace for Tennessee not to accept the Affordable Care Act and put people on health care. Shame. Especially when a study from Harvard has said for every 500,000 people that are denied health care, 2,800 die. That means every year that you keep 740,000 people from being uninsured. Up to 3,000 people die, not because God called them home, but because of government policies that exist that create policy murder. And don't tell me we can't do it, because when you get elected as a senator, United States senator, or a United States congressman, or a United States or a governor, you get free health care. So how is it that you don't want the people that have what you got? There are 3 million poor and low-income people in this state. 58% of your children are poor. 48% of women in Tennessee are poor, 1.6 million. 61% of people of color, 1.1 million. 41% of all white people, 2 million of them, are poor in Tennessee. And you cannot solve that by a little bit of charity, because that's not how it was started. So when you have politicians that run and say, well, I'm against gay folk and I'm against abortion and I won't pray in the school, I want to know, where are you on the side of poor folk? In this state, there are 1.3 million workers that make less than $15 an hour. You cannot say you love Tennesseans, not black Tennesseans. You cannot say you love Tennesseans and then stand against the passage of a living wage in this state. 51% of Tennessee's workforce makes less than a living wage. Over 1 million people in this state need SNAP or food stamps, mostly white.